People think ghosts only live in abandoned places, in crumbling mansions covered in cobwebs, or deep inside forests where nobody goes. But that's a lie we tell ourselves to feel safe. The truth is much worse. Sometimes they follow people. Sometimes they wait behind the glass of your mirrors. Sometimes they whisper through static on your phone. And sometimes they stand right on the stairs, waiting for you to look up. Everything you're about to hear happened in one single neighborhood, one street, one interconnected web of souls. And by the end of it, nobody slept with the lights off again. Because it all started with a photograph that was never supposed to exist. Amoka had just worked a brutal double shift at the hospital. Her feet burned, her head pounded, and the only thing keeping her awake was the pure excitement radiating from her son, Chinedu. She had finally saved enough for a brand new phone. It wasn't a luxury model, but for someone trying to survive Lagos rent, school fees, and transport, it was a small miracle. "Mommy, please. Can I use it for just 5 minutes?" Chinedu begged. Amoka smiled weakly. No calls. No messages. Only games. Hours later, the world had gone completely quiet, save for the steady drumming of rain against the glass. Amoka woke up with a dry throat. The television was casting long, dancing shadows across the parlor walls. "Chinedu," she called out. Silence answered. Her heart hammered against her ribs until she saw him. He was fast asleep on her bed, the phone still clutched in his tiny fingers. She smiled, shaking her head. "Stubborn child," she whispered, gently sliding the device out of his hand. At first, it was just standard kid photos. A blurry shot of his toes. A 3-second video of the ceiling. But the last picture made her blood turn to ice. It was a photo of Chinedu sleeping, taken from directly above the bed. And standing right beside the pillow was the distinct, pale profile of an old woman's face. One cloudy, milky eye looking directly into the lens. A terrifying, stretched smile. By daylight, Amoka tried to tell ourselves it was a glitch. An overlay filter from a pre-installed app. But when she showed it to Baba, the estate caretaker, the old man's face went completely gray. He refused to touch the phone. "That woman again," he muttered, crossing himself. "Before you moved in, an old grandmother died in that specific room. The family ran away because she never left. She likes to watch children sleep." That night, Amoka locked every entrance, every window, keeping Chinedu under her arm. She kept her eyes glued to the dark corners of the room. But at exactly 2:13 a.m., a sharp click echoed. The phone camera app opened by itself. The flash fired. When Amoka looked at the new notification, the old woman wasn't standing beside the bed anymore. She was leaning down, her face inches away from the lens. The terror didn't stay confined to Amoka's walls. 3 streets away, Toby and his friends used his family's old basement for music rehearsals. It was a subterranean room that smelled of wet mortar and old, forgotten trunks. Nobody ever liked staying down there alone after sunset. By 8 p.m., the session was over. The bandmates eagerly headed upstairs, desperate to escape the heavy, damp air of the basement. But halfway up the stairs, Toby realized he'd left his backpack by the water heater. "Wait for me outside," he yelled, turning back down into the dark. The basement felt freezing cold now. Toby snatched his bag, but as he turned, his eyes caught something in the corner. Behind the rusted water heater, a shadow stood. It wasn't a shadow cast by any object, it was a figure, solid and void of light, taller than any man. Toby's chest tightened so hard he couldn't breathe. His grandmother used to tell him, if a spirit fears God, pray. If it fears anger, curse it. Toby chose anger. "Hey! Who is that? Get out of my house," he roared. The shadow didn't flinch. Instead, it leaned forward, peeling itself away from the wall. Toby ran. He scrambled up the concrete steps, hitting the light switches as he fled, plunging the basement into darkness behind him. But through the dark, he heard it. Thud. 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 Something heavy, moving with terrifying speed, was coming up the stairs right on his heels. He slammed the door behind him and spilled out into the courtyard, gasping for air. His friends weren't moving, they were staring at the doorway with hollow eyes. One of them pointed a trembling finger. Toby. Who was that walking right behind you? Toby turned. The door was slowly, deliberately creaking open all by itself. To understand what was happening to the neighborhood, you had to look back years into the past. To a young girl named Ada who lived in the grandest house on the corner. Long before Amoka bought her phone, Ada lived in a state of quiet, nightly dread. She heard the whispers. They weren't loud voices, they sounded like dozens of people muttering over a bad phone line just beneath the floorboards. Her parents blamed a vivid imagination. Until one midnight in December, when Ada went to get a cup of water. She stepped into the hall and saw a strange, mesmerizing red glow radiating from the bottom of the stairs. The light felt warm, almost inviting. A soft murmur from the dark staircase whispered, "Calm down. Look." Ada took a step. Then another. But just as her foot touched the third stair, a deep, deafening male voice thundered through the entire house, "Stop. Go back upstairs." The sheer authority in that voice made her turn and sprint back to her room. The moment her door slammed, crash. A sound like a freight train hitting the house tore through the ground floor. Her father rushed downstairs, flashlight drawn, expecting a gang of robbers. The living room was an absolute war zone. The heavy oak cabinet had been ripped completely clear of the wall studs, pulverized on the floor. The Christmas lights were shredded. But there were no broken windows. No forced locks. No intruder. Just 3 deep, jagged scratch marks gouged into the wood, as if giant, furious fingers had dragged it down. By now, the rumors had coalesced into a neighborhood panic. People began realizing these weren't isolated incidents. A young woman named Ifeoma claimed the presence had followed her for years. One afternoon, her cousin was brushing her hair in Ifeoma's bathroom when a raspy voice right at her ear whispered, "Stop staring at yourself." The cousin turned around, but the bathroom was empty. The front door was double-bolted. Terrified, she packed her bags to leave that very hour. Before she walked out, she asked, "Ifeoma, what is following you?" Ifeoma didn't look at her. She just whispered, "I don't think it's following me. I think it's using me to wait for someone else." The stories eventually caught the attention of David, a local investigative journalist. David didn't believe in ghosts, he believed in data and pattern. And the pattern he uncovered led directly to a specific plot of land at the edge of the district, the St. Jude Care Home, which had burned down 30 years ago during a blackout, trapping several elderly residents inside. Records showed one resident, a former nurse with severe dementia, frequently wandered the halls looking for children. David entered the ruins with a camera. In room 23, he found a dust-covered rocking horse swaying back and forth in a room with no wind. He raised his camera and snapped a shot. In that brief microsecond of illumination, the flash revealed dozens of pale, hollow-eyed figures crowding the room, all of them smiling directly at him. Raw audio and live stream dialogue. "Guys, I saw something in room 23. I'm going back up the central stairs to check it again. The air feels incredibly heavy." The comments are lagging. "What do you mean behind me?" A raspy, ancient female voice whispers, "You finally came back." Live stream ends sharply. The police recovered David's digital files, but his body was never found. Only one image survived the corruption of the feed. It showed David on the stairs, frozen in pure terror, surrounded by shadowy silhouettes. But the detail that made the investigators lock the file away forever was this: one of those shadows wasn't looking at David. It was staring directly out of the photo, looking at whoever was viewing it. They demolished the building, but the curse didn't stay in the dirt. Rumors say that anyone who watches his final footage or looks at the image for too long begins to notice things. So tonight, before you lock up your house, check your phone gallery very carefully. And if you hear a sound downstairs, whatever you do, do not follow it into the dark.